Hey guys, RC here, back with a new Let's Play. This is for a game from Grey Dog Software. I've done quite a few things with their games, most notably bowl-bound college football. Probably the best game I've ever played, honestly. But this one is the World of Mixed Martial Arts 4. It's been out for about a couple of years now, and it's on version 1.5 with patches and everything. And actually just received notice here in the last 3 or 4 days that they are working as on version 5. So that will be out probably by the end of this year, if I had to guess. So this is an MMA game. It is a text-based sim game. And so anyway, just hoping to, again, version 4, so it's been through 4 versions so far. So just trying to introduce it out to the public here on my channel. And it does have a lot of playability. Anyway, hopefully you can check it out. It does have a free demo. And give it a shot. It is actually on sale right now. Now, at the time you see this video, that sale could be over, but it's on sale as of today. And today being Saturday, June 17th. And where we're at here is I've just gone through, I've set up my owner, and I am looking to pick my organization. So these are the default organizations, just like UFC, if you want to think of it that way. These are the different organizations around the world. And up here we can see what their size is. So Alpha 1 is a Japanese company out of Kanto, Japan. They're the #1 organization in the world, and they are a national low-level organization. Gives a little background on them, and you can take a look at their roster. Now, this does come with a default roster. There was a real-world mod out there, so you could incorporate Conor McGregor and actually add the UFC in there. I've not played with that. And these flames up in the corner here are indicative of how hot they are at the time. So they're very hot. Fighters will have the same thing. You'll also see skulls in place of the fire if they're cold. So they recommend that you usually start off with Alpha 1 or possibly Gamma. These are the top two teams. They're ranked #2 in the world out of America, and they are a low-level national. Now, the reason they say that is they are the easiest ones to start with. They have the most money, the most talent. They already have contracts in place for television and pay-per-view. So they're basically pretty easy to step into. Then we have British cage fighting. This is, well, let's go through them in order. You got to find them. Women's Extreme Fighting Federation. They're a regional mid-level company. So basically you have low, mid, and upper level, and then you have national, regional, and local. And there you see low level. Okay, so mid-level regional. They are as the name implies, they are women only. So if we look at their roster, they only have the 3 women weights. Now, if you take over as the owner, you can possibly change that. And you can see here that the XCC closed their women's division in April of '99, which basically dumped all their women into this organization, giving them a, that would be like if the UFC closed their women's division, and when Ronda Rousey was at her height, and boom, she goes to fight for this federation. All right, number 4 is Signature Martial Arts. They're in Europe and Germany. They are a regional mid-level. So they're spread out. So you have, they're in Quebec, Canada. Then they're in Germany and Europe. Then number 5 is British Cage Fighting. They're in London and the British Isles. They're also a mid-level regional. Number 6 is a low-level regional. That's Fight League Brazil out of Brazil, South America. 7 is the Cadena de Mano Fighting Circuit out of Asia, and this is tapping into the potential of the Asian MMA market. And then number 8 is Extreme Cage Combat, low-level regional in America. So they are the low end. So what I'm going to do in this one, because I have honestly not played in a while, and in fact I just spent about 2 hours digging through both of my computers, my newer one and my old one, looking for some notes that I had on this game on how to go about proceeding with it to be successful. So naturally I couldn't find it. So in this one we're going to start off with Gamma, because they are national, and that's kind of your default, easier to get into. And I'm also doing a written dynasty on the forums tied into this organization, so I'm a little familiar with the fighters. But then after we do this one, or at least we do it for a little while, then we may come back and we'll probably go into the XCC. Or maybe even if I'm doing well, maybe I decide to break away from here and start my own company and start off with a lower company and create a new one. So let's go with Gamma. And if we click down here, the owner, you're the CEO as well. And or you can be the CEO where there's an owner, they can overrule you on financial matters, and you can be fired. So I want to play basically, I guess if you wanted to think of the UFC, and this would be, the CEO would be Dana White, who handles the daily operations and decision making, and then the Fertitta brothers, and then of course they sold recently to the new ownership group, whoever that conglomeration is. They would be the CEO, and they could come in and potentially fire Dana if they wanted to. So we're going to play as the CEO. That way I have a little bit of operating room. Excuse me. But still, you know, not 100% leverage to make all the decisions. So we have to kind of be accountable as well. So here we see, and it's a turn-based game. So we hit continue because all these other organizations are currently playing at the same time we are, run by the AI. So let's go across the toolbar at the top. Let's just kind of introduce you here in this first video to kind of the rankings. We probably won't actually start playing. That was just how to select your group. All right, so this first one, if you mouse over, it's the internet, and that's this screen here. This gives you a lot of information off to the side, your top news stories of the day. We can see Matthew Dean tops the rankings as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Now we can click on his picture and it brings up his player card. So his name is the Anarchist Matthew Dean. Here we can see he's super hot, 5 fires. He's also a belt holder. All right, so the fighter has momentum. The more momentum icons, the better he's doing. Also, the faster he will gain popularity. Then he's the Gamma middleweight champion. So Gamma's the group I'm going to be running. So he's my middleweight champion, and he is a male. Okay, he's a middleweight, 6 feet tall, 31 years old, from San Jose, California. He's a wrestling style, 36-5 pro record. the #1 middleweight in our organization, #1 middleweight in the world, #1 pound for pound fighter as well. A little bit of biography on him. Currently under contract, based in America. Now, when it says not affiliated with any team, that means, well, you know what? I tell you what, let's come back to this. I want to go through the toolbar in this video. The next one is your office. So this is messages from your personal assistant or your secretary. So no shows scheduled, 17 fighters in the super heavyweight division. All right, so that's information that you need to know. Do you want to cut people? Do you want to add people? Do you need to negotiate with people? You know, things of that nature. And then upcoming events, if you have a pay-per-view or a TV show scheduled, that would be up here for your next events. And you can have multiple events scheduled, just like right now, as of today's date, UFC has, what, 3 or 4 pay-per-views already announced, all the way until August or September, something like that. You know, October maybe. So, you know, this is not, you know, that wouldn't be unusual. And in fact, it's recommended because just like in real life, your fighters have to go through a training camp and prepare for their fight and everything else. All right, the next one up here is your characters. This is all the people in the game. And they're alphabetized by first name from A all the way down, of course, to Z. And there are people from all over the globe. Croatia, Japan, Columbus, Georgia, Portland, Oregon, Toronto, Canada, Bahia, Brazil, Kawasaki, Japan, Thessaloniki, Greece. I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, so you can see, and then you can they have a search function down here that you can search for specific things. Unemployed fighters, you know, people that are looking for a contract. You know, that helps you dial in if you're looking for somebody. All right. Also, a list of companies. So again, just like at the very beginning when we picked the company we wanted, this is where we can kind of keep tabs on all these different companies. So we can see Alpha, who's our biggest competitor nationally, has run events April, June, August, October, December. So basically every 2 months they're having a pay-per-view. Okay, you know, depending on how profitable you are, how many fighters you have, that's going to determine how many shows you can have. All right. From there we go to teams. Now, teams, you know, you have like in the UFC, you have the Team Alpha Male, which is run by Uriah Faber, my favorite fighter of all time. You have the Black Zillions. There's so many teams out there, and you know, you typically don't know all their names, but basically these are the individual gyms where groups of fighters will train at. So here we can see there's this group called Pittsburgh Steel. A little bit of information about them, who their regular members are, people that are visiting them, you know, training at the gym, but just as visitors. And these visitors will come and go. They may stay for a little while. They may, you know, they may leave. They may come in permanently. You just never know. And you don't control any of that. This is the fighter making his own decision on who to train with, just like in real life. Don't spend a lot of time in there, but it does help because sometimes you may have fighters that don't want to fight a teammate. So you have to kind of be aware of that. Broadcasting. This is all of the companies in the world that will broadcast, and you can go in and see information. So Australia Channel 100 does pay-per-view. They're willing to share content, so you could broadcast a pay-per-view here and then also live stream it, say, on the internet and make money both ways. Their overall size and their size in different countries. They're only in Australia. And so this would be if you're trying to make a move to gain some exposure in Australia, maybe you want to go with them. They are a small Australia, but they're looking for high-level regional companies. All right, well, I'm a national company, so probably not the best shot, but you know, that's how that works. Then we go to the game world, and this has each country, so we're looking at America. It has each state or each region, which in America are the states. It'll tell you about the individual states or markets. So Illinois is pretty lucrative, fully legal. Halverson's is one of the fight teams here. Same thing in, let's say, Nevada. Extremely lucrative. Gamma's actually based there. MMA company. One fight team is there. The last major show was Gamma Battle Lines 3. Okay. Now, the economy is rated as being below average and is in decline. This is fluid and will change over time. So you can have economies that go down and go up and impact your earnings directly. Let's see. Options. This is where you can populate fighters, you can add new fighters, you can add new companies, you can change your user preferences. You can turn these on, turn these off. You can edit if you want. For dynasties, that's good because I can go in and say change a fighter's name to someone else's name, a guy that's watching or following my dynasty. And if any of you have watched any of my other videos, a good example of that is Dwarf Fortress, where sometimes the person doing the let's play on it will change it to the people following his YouTube channel. And so you would have Joe Smith and Tommy Hearns and different people that are real people in the game. So that's what that is. This is your advance day in turn button. We're not going to hit that yet. This is your back button to go back to a previous screen. This is your help button, so you can look up certain help items. This is an in-game notepad. You can actually, it's a private notepad, and you can actually write out certain things for you to help you remember. Maybe after a match, if a fighter calls out another fighter, maybe you'll make note of that to be able to pull that up to make a match later on down the road. That's your save option, and then to close the game. So that's our toolbar across the top. We've still got about 10 minutes here, so let's go ahead and go back into the news, and we'll start looking at some individual news. So Matthew Dean, of course, we were talking about him, so let's go in now. We'll look at the player card, and we had gotten down in here, but we'll run through it again real quick. So this is his heat, or how cold he is. The more heat or the more momentum a person has, the faster they gain recognition. So best name value is nationally known all across America. Well, as he starts fighting worldwide, if we would have a fight, say, in Mexico or South America somewhere, then he would start becoming known there. And with this kind of momentum, he could actually gain recognition to this same level relatively quickly. And this is directly attributable to wins. If you have a good win streak going, your momentum builds. Literally one loss wipes that out completely, and you will have a skull up here and you'll be back to square one in momentum. Now, it doesn't affect your value very much unless you start losing matches, but that's what that is. This is also where you can kind of tell at a look-see his next fight, contract. He's the champion in that division. We can look at his, and then this is another toolbar in the player card. So you can look at their fight history, who they fought, the result, how they won or lost the fight. what round and time that the fight ended. You can actually look up information. So for example, this was a unanimous decision, so let's click on that, and that gives, okay, it doesn't give the judges scorecards, but it gives the details from the end of that fight. So Dean beat Reed, unanimous decision, middleweight fight, February 97 at Gamma 15. It was a decent fight and a successful defense of his middleweight title. Okay, same thing on this last one, his last fight, beat him by a Kimura submission, December 2000 at Gamma 39. Excellent fight, won fight of the night, and Dean won submission of the night, and a successful defense of his middleweight title. And then the event name itself. Now, different groups will have different naming options. Gamma uses the numbered events just like UFC does, but they also put the fighters' names in there. Usually when you see UFC, they, unless it's like right at the event, it's UFC 100, UFC 104, but at the event, it's UFC 100, Rousey versus, such and such, or McGregor versus such and such. So in this one, it will always have that. You can see they do have the second, so he's fought DeVries twice, Garner twice, and sometimes you'll see they do fight back-to-back fights. Sometimes they don't. Just depends. And even from here, I can click on, and you notice I didn't click the information, I clicked the event. Now we can see the entire card for that event, including the preliminary fights, which there weren't any. We can see the results. We can see that this was a title fight. We can see the fight of the night and knockout of the night, and they did not have a submission, so there was no submission of the night. You'll also see critical rating and commercial rating. Well, critical rating, when you look at the results, it says that this was a fantastic fight. This one was a great fight. This one was a good fight. And the last one was a very poor fight. So the game will factor all those in and give you a critical rating on a percentage. And if we click that, how exciting the event was. And it's looking at the 3 most highly rated fights on the show. So that's something to keep in mind. It's your top 3 fights. So it's not just your main event or the co-main event, but you don't also have to put a 5th or a 6th fight on there that's really great. You can have some lower people on the card as in your early on your main card. If you get a 60 or more, this will help you gain popularity. A low rating, 50 or below, you'll lose popularity. So even Gamma, being a national level organization, could eventually fall down to be just a regional or a local company if I keep screwing it up. Of course, I'm only the CEO, so before that would happen, the owner would probably fire me. So then, let's see. Fill the main part of the show with fights that are likely to result in exciting back and forth action and plenty of finishes. Then your commercial rating also gives you a 1 to 100 rating. This is how successful you are based on the draw. How many people showed up, how many people viewed it, how many people bought the pay-per-view. Now, this is the main event and the co-main event, so only your top 2 fights. And it does say that if the co-main event is a bigger draw, they are essentially swapped, and the co-main gets treated as the main event in this calculation. A strong main show undercard can give a mild boost to the final rating, while the preliminary fights have no impact at all. The final commercial rating is compared to the company's popularity in each area, and this shows a rough target level that the company should be aiming to get. So we are a a mid-level national or low-level national. So we should be shooting for 55% or better in that category. If we get above that, the farther above that we get, the more popularity that we will gain towards the next level. It's like leveling up with a video game character. And if you fall below that, then you lose popularity, and again, your company size could fall. Okay, so all that information, a lot to look at. All right, we'll close that. We have each individual fighter's skills. Now, this is based on scouting. Now, there is fog of war in this game. You can turn it off, but we're playing with it. But right now, we've scouted him, and he's a 10 out of 10. So we have a 100% accuracy of what this guy's skills and talent are. And I think once you sign them, I could be wrong, let's see. Starts at 0. Each time a fighter competes, it will rise. The longer the fight lasts, the bigger your increase, plus your own eye for talent rating and any scouting you've done prior to. It can also fall if the fighter's inactive for a while. All right, so basically we can see, this guy's got a lot of green categories, which are good to very good to excellent. We've got a couple of yellows, which are average, and a handful of reds and oranges, which are poor and terrible. So he's not a high kicker, or he's not a big kicker. He's not a creative striker. He's not into elbows from a Muay Thai perspective, or knees. And preparation. Now, I don't remember, I wish there was, I could go look in the help menu what that is, but also what his background is. So he's a national caliber wrestler and an accomplished jiu-jitsu artist. All right. Then you can go into some personal. This is his relationships with people, who he's friends with, who he's enemies with, current teammates, recent call-outs. As you can see, he's not affiliated with any team. His health, this is, now if you have a little red cross up in this column, that will mean he's on a medical suspension. That's typical for all MMA. After a fight, you're medically suspended for a couple of weeks, 30 days, whatever. If you're knocked out, it could be longer. If you're injured, it could be longer. I've had fighters out for as long as a year with health issues and medical suspensions from being knocked out in a tournament. Also, there is drug testing, and you'll have people randomly fail drug tests, and they'll get suspended for a year. One time I had a guy, I brought him in as a free agent, and he won one of my belts, and he was going to be the guy I was going to give my biggest push to. And lo and behold, after his first fight, he got suspended and missed a year. So that didn't do me a lot of good. Employment. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting, because when you're a national level like Gamma, you sign exclusive contracts. They can only fight for you. If you're a lower company like XCC, which is a regional company, then they sign at-will contracts. They can fight for you, but they might have at-will contracts with 3 other companies, and if the other company books them to a fight first, then they fight for that company, and you cannot put them on your card. And then, of course, whatever time they have to sit out to recuperate from that fight, go back into a training camp. So there's a lot there. And we'll deal with contracts at some point. Achievements. So this is his achievements for his career: 5-time fight of the night, 2-time submission of the night, 1 knockout of the night, 2 main event of the year winners, 1 submission of the year winner. These are awards that are given at the end of the year. Current champion, 7 defenses, and the current #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. All right, we'll close that. Name value. This gives, just like when we had looked at the toolbar to the countries, this gives a snapshot of his recognition level. So he's pretty well known around the world. News history. Well, we just started, so this doesn't pick up any old news. If we shortlist him, then that gives us the ability to, we'll get notified. If they're with our organization, well, we don't really need to shortlist them because we'll be getting any news on them anyway. This would be if you find a prospect that you want to keep an eye on and maybe sign at some point down the road, that you would shortlist them, and then you'll kind of get notices for when they're scheduled for a fight, when they do fight, and you can kind of track how they're doing, and then go in and maybe try to snap them up at a certain point, and then negotiate. That's to get into a contract. So as you can see, you cannot negotiate a new contract until there's either 1 fight left or the final 3 months. And if we look at employment, he has 2 fights left, and it expires in 6 months. So we will be dealing with him soon, and he may not even make his fight clause. So that's the player card. Tell you what, we're going to go ahead and put a break in right here. We've kind of hit all the toolbars, what to look at in a player card, and when we come back, we will start hitting some of the news, and we'll start advancing in the game. So thanks for checking out this video, and we will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.